I'm doing great.
We,
Uh,
we, we got to get that Brady Bunch thing down to where we know which way we're pointing.
yeah, I'm doing
Also,
great,
can
man.
we get Rob? Can we get like a '90s montage, like intro?
Montage.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just us making little silly faces.
That's, you guys are better than me, apparently. My bad.
Large
But
part
hey,
of
I
it,
just
you
wanted to
know.
say, like, we got football back. We got some highlights. Unfortunately, we're going to talk about some injuries, but I know Jack's smiling ear to ear because he sees Brady over here connecting on long bomb touchdown.
Maybe. You know, my friend sent me that clip like I hadn't already seen it the second it came out. But yes, Brady. At least right now, we'll see at week 17. But it looks like he's still slinging it just fine, and I can't wait. Actually, I'm gonna go dive into the film with him and Jameis on the next like week or so and watch all their throws and see. I got a feeling it. I was even the one that said that last year that Brady was down on like his throwing wasn't as good, but I may retract that a little bit depending on who he's throwing to. All right.
I'm doing tremendous, guys. Glad to be back here for happy hour. One of the best hours of the week here. Always look forward to it.
Hey, at
Eh.
least pretend like you're happy to be here.
You're a cool dude. You should be the
I know
happiest.
we got big announcements. How are you not stoked right now? Except Austin Jackson.
Oh.
Actually, I really like the person. Great guy. Great guy. Yeah. It does. It's a lot of money to give up, but he is the focal point of that offense. Without George Kittle, that whole offense, we've seen it even just plays where he's been off the field. They just do not function the same. And yes, I did say this around this time last year that George Kittle is the number one tight end in the NFL, and I got a lot of flack for it. So I'm not gonna say you guys didn't like him, but I said it first. Best tight end in the game.
Yeah, rightfully so. It made sense too, though, with Kelsey. It literally came in like a couple hours after the Kittle deal. I think Kelsey basically had the deal in place where he was like, I just want a certain percentage of whatever like below Kittle got, which makes sense. You know, he's what 30 years old. He'll be able to finish his career with KC. He's going to make more money off the field anyways, playing with Patrick Mahomes. So he didn't need to be the top tight end money. And Kittle gets it, man. He blocks. He's an integral part of their offense. And after we're going to talk about it here. You know, they already lost Debo. They lost another young cat we're going to talk about later. So they need him bad this year. So well deserved.
Yeah, for me, it's Kenny Clark. This guy, he's a nose tackle, but he don't play like your old school two-gapping nose tackle. He just reestablishes the line of scrimmage. He can push the pocket as a pass rusher as well. He's just a really undervalued part of that defense and pretty much the blue chip player on that defense for Green Bay. They have Jair Alexander, but it really starts up front in the trenches, and he really lets their linebackers really free flow the ball, take up some blocks for those outside pass rushers that really came on last year. So it's just, I really like that deal. 4 years, $70 million. I know a lot of people maybe were taken aback by the amount there, but when you really dive into the tape, he has so much more impact than what the general numbers say.
Oh yeah, even then, 6 sacks in the last 2 years from a nose tackle is saying something.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and just to piggyback off what you guys were saying about Kittle, I'm going to go back to a reference I threw out on an episode of the Fantasy Football Hot Seat with Rob, and Cody. It was unicorns. You pay them, you play them. You definitely pay the unicorns. The guys that are the unique, one-of-a-kind players in the league, George Kittle, you pay that man whatever you have to keep him in your jersey. Right.
Well deserved. I mean, and they need it. They need all the help they can get on that offensive line, which they've slowly built over the years. They still have a few studs on the interior side. Again, it was pay your guys. I mean, Dawkins isn't one of the top right tackles in the league. I don't know if he's even top half. Probably borderline top 10 to top 20 tackle in the league right now. It's a right tackle at least.
He's a left
tackle. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
But he's good enough. Again, it's good money, and they need him. So they don't come very often. They're not on trees.
And for him, just kind of piggyback off you there, Jack. A lot of people projected in the guard coming out, and good on him for letting him try left tackle and fail first before they move him inside. And he's been serviceable out there. And whenever you have a big statured quarterback like Josh Allen, that's all you really need from your left tackle is to be serviceable. I mean, a guy in Pittsburgh, like I know quite well, he took a lot of beatings, but that mobility he has, the strength to be able to rub off of blocks, you only need a serviceable left tackle to really make do. And they didn't pay him an awful lot here. It was only a 3-year, $48 million extension. So you pay your own guys. It sends the right message to your people that if you work hard, you're going to get paid. Just, good on Dawkins, though, for actually getting knocked for mostly people saying guard coming out, and he wind up sticking a tackle.
And just to kind of put a cherry on top of that conversation with Dawkins is, to me, he was the top. I did the Bills on the Prospect Encyclopedia. As people will see when they get that in their hands, we do top 11 players per roster. He was actually my 9th player, so I thought highly of him. Like you guys covered him well, his play and everything, how he is key to Josh Allen's success. And one thing to keep in mind, he got decent money for this time, but he's only 26 years old. So he can get better, and you can get him playing better over that value. Plus, he'll be 29 when he's going to want to get another contract again. So it's a win-win situation. He gets a deal now, and he also gets the opportunity to make more money later if he can get better as a prospect.
I had Melvin Gordon for sure. If you watch the episode of Hard Knocks, He's actually still showing up. He's still there.
Ingram.
Yeah. What did I say?
Gordon.
God damn it. That's twice now. That's twice. I think I did that. I made that same mistake just the other day on TVB. Anyways, Melvin Ingram is still in the building. I think he's doing it the right way. He's not stepping foot on the field. He's kind of holding out, but he's still going to team meetings, which I think is awesome. Also, Bosa just got paid like generational type money, and I mean, he's going to be able to take care of his family for a long time. So if he's getting paid, the guy opposite of him, Melvin Ingram, should be doing the same.
I think I'm going to go straight to my team and not the guy you think I want to, as much as I want him to get. I'm going to go with Ryan Kelly. He's an integral part of the line. Obviously, you're going to want to pair Ryan Kelly with Quentin Nelson for their whole careers that they're in the NFL. When he's out of the lineup, it's very noticeable. He does need to stay healthy. Reports are coming out. The team is talking to him about extension. With the Colts having so much cap space, they can kind of front load a deal with him. So that's a deal I think I can expect to get done this month.
Yeah, to me, there's one really blaring person here, and that's Deshaun Watson. He's the absolute class among all these players, and he's a quarterback in his prime. We're going to see some astronomical numbers, especially since Bill O'Brien is paying him. And who does he have around him? So we're paying somebody, and they need to pay him. That he can single-handedly, lift that team to the playoffs with a poor offensive line his first 2 years and not much help around him outside of Nuck. And now he's gone, so you definitely got to invest in Deshaun Watson going forward. I'm thinking it's easily you start at Mahomes and go down. I'm not saying. I mean, as much as a one in a kind. I could definitely see a 400
3-year deal. He wants a 3-year deal.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to get anywhere close to a lifetime deal with Watson. I think it's going to be a short and sweet and want to get repaid.
A little bit of a different coach-quarterback relationship. You don't.
Yeah.
But how does he already knows he's going to be there past O'Brien. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he already knows. He could basically be telling the owner, "Hey, I'm going to be picking the next head coach."
Yeah, but like if they don't have nobody picking the right roster, he's just going to be beat up behind an all right offensive line, no defense. Like if I'm Watson, like yeah, I want my money, but I'm not going to commit long term until I know you're going to fix everything around me because he's a winner.
Ooh, James Conner could possibly be one of them. I don't think he's going. They're gonna break the bank for him. Maybe Marvin Jones, because if Marvin Jones and Kenny Golladay both have to get paid, Kenny Golladay is getting paid way before Marvin Jones is. He just has the higher ceiling. We know what kind of player Marvin Jones is. He's a number 2 wide receiver, never a number 1. Always a bridesmaid, never a bride type of wide receiver. And then if something happens, Levante David possibly. I know Cody brought this up. I could possibly see maybe a Levante David getting moved next year if Devin White has some crazy breakout season. But why would you want to get rid of a staple of your defense when you have the money to pay him? Because Chris Godwin's definitely going to garnish a large chunk of next year's cap. But I think they'll be able to figure out a way to make it happen.
I was gonna bring up Cooper Cup because I joked to these guys earlier. I was gonna upset you, which by the way, I could still see happening. By the way, because they haven't had contract talks from last I heard about it. But I'm actually gonna go to one I think actually might happen this year if the team doesn't compete halfway through. Keenan Allen. He's older. You know, might as well maybe try to get some value out of him if you're not going to re-sign him this year. So
New England, maybe?
Yeah.
Mid-season trade?
I'm not. I have not seen that. I'm not part of that. I've been thinking more like the Jets need to go out and be in this trade market.
Yeah, for me, I'm just going to hit them real quick. It's two of my guys from Pittsburgh. First guy, who I think is absolutely gone at this point, no matter what happens this year, Juju Smith-Schuster. I do not see him re-signing. As much as I love him and his character, he's just not. They're not going to pay him that money when they invested in Claypool. They have Deontay Johnson, who really showed up in great shape this year. They have James Washington. I think they're going to go with the group approach the same way with Plexico when he left and Mike Wallace. I think they're going to let him go. I see him getting huge money, and I see him maybe targeting a Miami destination with Tua because he's very close to Tua. The other guy that's really painful for me is Cam Hayward, the heart and soul of our team basically the last 2 years. They had a media availability with him earlier this week. He kind of voiced some displeasure with the lack of talks with the Steelers, and for him, that's really out of character to kind of air any of the dirty laundry. And I'm hoping they're not going to mess this up and let him go because that guy, he's getting better with age like a fine wine. And right now they're not looking like they're paying him. And they usually don't pay players once they pass 30, and he's already 31. So that's a weird situation. If he hits the free agent market, he's going to be a big time, almost like a Calais Campbell type signing that could have an effect on the defense when he went to Jacksonville.
Go. He'll stay, but I would go.
He's gonna stay. I think last time they were talking about it earlier. They're talking at least about a deal.
Stay.
I think he stays, but I wouldn't pay him. I would just rephrase that. He stays. I would say go.
Same thing with Alvin Kamara.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Well, I'm going to talk about a guy that just had a really gut-wrenching injury today, Vince Beagle. If you watched any of the Dolphins last year, he went from a waiver claim to really coming into his own last year with not a lot of quality talent around him in Miami. And just to see after that up-and-coming season, and now it said Kyle Van Noy was basically, helping him sob up tears on the field today because he left it all out there. He was good in coverage. He's a good blitzer and timing. It's just really tough to see a guy like that really put his first step forward last year, and you thought he was going to maybe break out this year, and then bam, a torn Achilles tendon. That's rough to come back from, but it's not surprising with the lack of OTAs and walkthroughs that we've had in this crazy COVID situation.
I'm gonna go ahead and talk, Rob. I just looked on YouTube and we got a comment saying they cannot hear you, and I was on mute because I was trying to go back and confirm that. So you might want to check on that. As far as, but to answer your question, keep this conversation going. Most impactful for me, to me, it depends on how long he's out and if this lingers. Is Javon Hargrave for the Eagles? If that does linger into the season, or if it just causes some type of issue with him, that's going to be a big loss because they also lost Derek Barnett, who might be ready by the beginning of week 1. So you're talking about an already weak linebacker corps in Philadelphia that was going to be dependent on the play of their defensive front. If those guys are out of the front, that defense can get ran all over. That's just my opinion.
Both of those injuries, Cody, makes me wonder if the Eagles might not dip their toe in the market for Jadeveon Clowney, being they have enough cap space.
And then let Cody have them let me know if they can hear me on YouTube now. Let's save Mr. Clowney real quick for the next topic here. But Jack, most impactful injury.
I would say it's got to be Jalen Hurd. The Niners are thin right now, and that has everything to do with the Deebo Samuels being hurt with the broken foot. There's talks that he could possibly be back as early as week 1. Could be, a lingering injury. They don't know. They won't know for a few weeks. So Jalen Hurd being down, once again, he was looked at as the number 1 wide receiver going into last season before he got hurt and he messed his back up. So they were relying on that. They did obviously draft Brandon Ayuk, so they're going to survive. They've got guys. They already have Travis Benjamin on there. They've talked to Tavon Austin this week. A few other guys. I'm not sure if they're interested in Antonio Brown or if they would be interested in a Josh Gordon. But they are pretty thin at wide receiver right now due to their top 2 guys being down basically.
Yeah, they said
big for the group.
They said Ayuk has really been flashing so far with Garoppolo, and they did wind up signing Tavon Austin this week. So that's an interesting piece, but it's just a gadget more than anything.
Yeah, you could see some special packages for him, obviously, probably on special teams as well. Good return man. So the injury, the one that bugged me was the Gerald McCoy injury. And not so much that he's a huge loss to the Cowboys. I think he'll be felt, but I don't know what the hell happened. It was just insane. He was fine and then down. It just out of nowhere. I don't know if you guys actually saw the moment where he destroyed his right quad tendon. But it was just little to no contact, and then it just blew up on him. So, and then I do also want to throw in that it kind of sucks for him about the contract thing and getting cut immediately with that in his contract. So, best wishes to all these injuries. But
I do. I will say, that sucks that it was already written in there, but he did get broke off $3 million. So at least it's something.
Yeah, I feel sorry. I feel $3 million less sorry.
You can take my quad, but at least they did sign Everson Griffin just this last week. They've got guys on that offensive line. They drafted Neville Gallimore. They've got people. They'll be okay. This was a luxury to have that many guys. On Terry Poe, Dexter, or Lawrence, Marcus Lawrence. There's so many guys on that it was a luxury to have them. Not having them is not going to be that big of an impact.
I'll go ahead and say this too. With that, because they got the money back, so there's a Snacks Harrison on the market right now. So there's people they can go out and add. Is it DeMonte Pico, or I forget his first name?
Demata Pecca.
Demata, yeah, he's available. So there's some decent depth guys they can add. Probably get for cheap right now, especially since they got that money back.
How much money did they recoup on that?
I think it was $3.5 million.
For this year?
Yeah, for this year in cap space.
$18 million deal, if I remember right.
Yeah, so they got off the hook on everything but the $3 million basically signing bonus. So, I mean, there's still quite a few guys. Like Ansa's out there. I mean, if they just need bodies, they can find guys.
Hey, if you need a run plugger, Marcel Darius.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of vets that are there to step in should they require it. Let's talk about the big elephant in the room. He's still out there. He's still available. Let's talk about Mr. Clowney. Anything with these injuries lead you to believe maybe now you have a little sense more of where he could go? Cody, I'll start with you.
I wouldn't say with these injuries, maybe the Eagles, because there has already been a connection there with them. It depends, like I said, all will depend on how fast Barnett and Hargrave can return. I still think he's kind of waiting for that edge to get hurt. You know, like somebody naturally at his positions. Like, say if Derek Barnett was lost for the season, it might be a different story there. Other than that, it's just not. There's a lot of injuries, but just not at edge outside the Derek Barnett one.
Jack, any play you think that makes this easier to get Jadeveon in?
I don't know. I think like they said, he's wisely waiting to see what happens, and guys are going down really quick this year. I don't know if it has to do with COVID and these guys not being able to get their normal off-season training in or what, but that was quite a few guys to head to IR and or in Gerald McCoy's situation get cut on the first day of padded practice. So that's why when we talked about that nice little Gronk hit earlier, I was like, ooh, come on, lay off that veteran. My man's over 30 years old.
Gronk
that's only day one.
That's Gronk thrives.
That's a year away.
Yeah,
that's a year away. He needs hit a little bit.
Does anybody, and Cody, maybe if you don't know, maybe you could look it up here. Does anybody know who's got the money left for Jay Clown?
There's quite a few people that do. I have it right here. Browns, Patriots. I mean, Redskins don't need him. The Jets could use him because they don't have C.J. Mosley. So, I mean, Broncos don't need him. They have the money. Dolphins, Eagles, Lions, Colts, Giants, Titans, Texans, Bengals all have enough cap space as it sits right now to go get Clowney on at least a 1-year deal. Yeah. I could maybe see the one thing I could possibly see is if the Jaguars are able to finally trade Unique Ngakoue, then that would possibly free up even more money, and then they go and replace him with the Jadeveon Clowney. But that's just, trying to make smoke out of nothing.
Yeah, for me, I don't think we're even, just kind of get off topic a little, I don't think we're going to see Unique Ngakoue this year. I think you're really going to see a Le'Veon Bell type conversation there because he never signed his franchise tag. So he's just going to play the game of, well, I sat out once, you're going to get rid of me. So you might as well not franchise tag me again. I mean, he's still young enough, he can play that game. And he's at a different position than running back to where his skills may not get devalued as much as what Le'Veon Bell's contract was. But I really do not think we see a Unique Ngakoue on the field if it's in Jacksonville. He will not be anywhere close to that field. If it's a trade, I could definitely see him be playing this year. But if it's the Jaguars take the hard stance, they ain't trading him or don't get what they think is valuable, I don't think we're seeing Unique this year.
Boy, what a crazy turn that would be. Roy, I'm going to stick here with you then. Any potential names on the back end of rosters with these injuries that elevate their status to you?
Let's see here. Trying to look through them quick.
It's like we talked to a guy about like Ayuk in San Francisco replacing Hurd. Is there anyone else that kind of one of those guys?
One of Jack's guys that he really liked, Neville Gallimore from last year in Oklahoma. He is a big motor. He has some lateral range for a defensive lineman. That might be a guy you see Dallas really lean on, being those injuries. And I mean, there's a bunch of guys here that we can really talk about. Trying to get to the one name in particular here. Trying to get back to my notes. Cleveland has a pretty good linebacking core. If Mac Wilson's out for any amount of time, Taki really came on last year from BYU. And Phillips coming from LSU, he was actually the leading tackler last year at LSU, even more than Patrick Queen. I'm not saying he's better than Patrick Queen. So both of them guys are going to take on a bigger onus if Mac Wilson's going to be out for any amount of time. But I also wouldn't be surprised that you see the veteran B.J. Goodson step up and get some more actual starting reps this year.
And I'm telling you guys, this is why you need the 2020 Prospect Encyclopedia. We will take care of that for you. Jack, I'm going to let you start. Let's end this on a happy note, my brother. Alex Smith has returned. I'm just going to let you say your piece there, because you've been. I remember months ago us getting into why I'm just absolutely sure Alex Smith wouldn't come back. Even again, not rooting on it, but you were always he's coming back, Jack. So I'm going to let you have it, man.
I'm superstitious enough of a sports fan to where I'm definitely not going to rub this in anybody's face because he has not played a snap yet. But I'm very, very excited. I was super excited, almost a little emotional watching that video of his kids and his family, like spraying him with the champagne once he officially was off the PUP list. It has been a long road to get here. He has not played since, 2017? And at that time, let's not forget, he actually had Washington in first place of the NFC East. Like, this guy can ball. I mean, we're talking about the Redskins. He had them in first place. When's the last time anybody has been able to say they had the Redskins in first place in the NFC East? He is that good. He is one of the most underrated quarterbacks of all time, not just of this generation of quarterbacks. He's one of the most winningest quarterbacks, I think, through his time through his spurt. He was the third most winningest quarterback of his time until he had gotten hurt. I think that's changed a little bit since. But to me, Alex Smith is somebody who I wanted as a Tampa Bay Buccaneer before I had any inclination that we were going to get Tom Brady, just because of how well he protects the ball. I think his last time it was 26 touchdowns of 5 interceptions, and he was the best deep ball thrower in the league, the most accurate deep ball thrower. It also helps when you have those weapons in KC. But still, he can do anything that people doubt him and say he can't do. He turns around and does. I think he's going to have a full recovery, and I really do think that he's going to make Dwayne Haskins sit the you-know-what down.
Like Jack said, he is the last Washington quarterback since RG3 had knees to do anything. So the guy can ball. Cody, do you think he can make a difference? We got about 45 seconds left here. Do you think he can make a difference on the Washington football team? Because he left a Redskin, now he comes back a Washington football teamer.
I think they need a lot of help in Washington before him to the next level. I don't know, man. I hope he is 100% healthy. That whole leg thing he had on his leg was kind of
bro. Weird. When I saw the video and he slipped off his chunkla, man, he came off that flip flop. I was like, nah, son, you better go sit down. You don't need that happening.
You want to talk about a real impact, like with his mind, like his high football IQ. If there is anything in Dwayne Haskins, that's where you're going to see the impact from.
Roy, could we see Alex Smith moved? Because we got 1 second. We're going to go a little over here. Could you see Alex Smith get moved?
Oh, absolutely. Anybody that's in the playoff contention, if you don't have a high-quality quarterback like
Give me
Denver,
a team to target.
Denver Broncos. I'm going Denver. If Drew Lock is showing
if he's not in Washington, Cody, where is Alex Smith?
Jacksonville. I don't know. They won't make the playoffs. I really don't think he's going to play. I'm just being honest.
Jack, where is he? If he's not in Washington.
Oh, he'll be in Washington. I mean, maybe Denver. Denver's like the only place I could see him on that roster. Could definitely be a playoff contender.
All right. Well, we are going to cut to a real quick break. We'll call this halftime. We're going to throw you to the commercial about the 2020 Blitzalytics Prospect Encyclopedia, and then we'll come back with some big news, guys. So hold tight. We'll be right back with you.
For over 100 years, the story has been written, ever-changing and growing with each new chapter. The soul remains, though the characters change. Bigger, faster, stronger, smarter.
Ready or not, here I come. You can't hide.
So too, grows our fandom. Start miles ahead. The 2020 Prospect Encyclopedia. September. Available on Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, and Blitzalytics.com.
All right.
And we are back on the Football Happy Hour. That, again, the 2020 Football Encyclopedia here. And Roy, I know it's your baby, but we always let you break the good news. Let's let the CEO break it today, baby. Jack, why don't you tell us the good news, man?
All right, not to take away any credit from the amazing Roy Countryman, the Scouting Encyclopedia, which is why we named this book the Prospect Encyclopedia. But starting tomorrow, as of tomorrow, almost 2 years to the date till we got the website up, or within the same week, we will be releasing our Prospect Encyclopedia, 700 write-ups of players. You're talking depth charts, you're talking rankings, you were talking the 80-20 grade scale, which I'll let Roy get into. But if you go to blitzalytics.com/shop, you can buy the full hardbound copy. Click on the very first link. That will take you to bookbaby.com. That is $35 for the hard copy. You are also have the opportunity to buy the PDF version. You could get the preview and buy a single team PDF for only $5, or you can buy the full online digital version for $15 at blitzalytics.com. That is the announcement. Roy, feel free, take it away, man. Tell them about your baby.
I was like a kid coming down Christmas when Jack said we got the link finally. We're ready to get this hardback coming to you, or whether you're a techie, you want to have the PDF sitting there for you in your draft time for your fantasy football draft. This is it. Jack talked about the 80-20 scale. This is kind of a different type of scope of things, the way you're going to be getting the spectrum of player here. We started ranking players on a 20 to 80 scale based on traits, 5 traits per position, whether it's offense and defense, and they're all different for the different position groups, all by the 80-20 scale. Then we go to an actual present and future grade. So not only are you getting a snippet of the scouting report and who the player is now, but you're also going to see maybe a projection from our writers here and what they think their role can be on the team. So the 80-20 scale really goes from 20 is the bottom of the scale. That means they're really kind of a street free agent type player, not a lot of intriguing qualities, maybe one of them, all the way to the 80 players. That's your platinum level player. You're going to be getting to know these players when they're 40s, a backup, maybe a sub-package type player, and we're going to give you the insider knowledge to know who those players are going to be in 3 years from now, 2 years from now, that are going to be at that 80 level, the platinum level players, like a Javon Kinlaw that's in our book, number 13th consensusly ranked player. Our number 1 consensus ranked player went number 1 in the draft, Joe Burrow. And this is really featuring out of the last 3 draft classes, and maybe some special cases here or there that you'll get to read about in the prospect guide and the special type of traits that they have. It's really been something I've really been wanting to do, and you guys have done an awesome job getting all the 22 players for each one of them. We know the COVID's kind of messed with some of our lists, and some of the players have been in and out, but that's all right. They'll be signed with other teams, or if the XFL comes back, you're going to know these players that have been on an NFL roster. This is definitely a resource you want to have, not only for this year, but 2-3 years from now. And when we're going to be pumping them out every year from now, you're going to have a library of players, and you're going to look like the smartest guy in class.
I'll tell you what, it was good enough for Jim Nagy to write us a review. You might have heard him on the Stick to Football podcast just earlier today, I believe. It was good enough for Chris Meany of The Athletic to write us a review. It was good enough of Russ Landy, who's been a friend of Blitz forever, to write us a review. And good enough for Mike Tanier and Marcus Grant to hit you with a couple of forwards. Absolutely a pleasure to finally release it. And if we sell more than 1,000 copies, Cody doesn't have to wear a dress. So let's go ahead and get here into quarter number 3. We are going to talk about the Prospect Encyclopedia at a little bit more in-depth way right now. We're going to hit you with the AFC South. We'll be covering, obviously, the Colts, Jags, Texans, Titans in that order. We'll give you some depth pieces here, and then best talent at the top of the roster, maybe a breakout star for each of the teams. Cody, I'm going to come to you, my man. Whenever you're ready, we're going to lead off here with the Colts. So a couple of names you want to target, maybe best talent on top of the roster, you think?
Yeah, I mean, we're talking like as far as like the 22 prospects.
Yeah, sure. However we want to do it, just a bar conversation.
Yeah. Well, the way I do is like we can all pick some names from the top 22 list for us we could talk about.
Yeah, we'll just
like,
highlight some guys.
A couple things I want to say, and I'm not even going to talk about my homeboy at number 2. I'll maybe let Jack talk about him. My number 1 prospect is Bobby Okereke. This guy really, like, first of all, Roy was the one that turned me on to him prior to the draft. So I want to give him credit for keeping an eye out on him as a talent. And then, like, he just really grew upon a year. His instincts, his ability to jump. I mean, he took a 2-point conversion back to the house last year. That was the play that was like, whoa, this guy's talented. He's going to be competing with Anthony Walker, who I'm very high with for snaps this year. But he's going to be right next to Darius Leonard. You're going to talk about maybe if Bobby Okereke can reach his ceiling, he is going to be a top 2 linebacker duo with him and Darius Leonard for the next 4 to 5 years. I can't like project their future contracts. And if I pick like one other name, and then you guys can pick a couple names later on my list, a little underlying guy I really like is George Odom. He's a backup safety. He gets the job done. He's made some starts over his 2-year career. He's a special teams guy. When he's on the field, if say if a Malik Hooker gets hurt, he can fill in for that role. He makes big time. He can jump in front of balls, get interceptions. So to really kind of sell the book, what's great about this book is the reason why I wanted to pick those 2 players as far as the Colts. You're getting Bobby Okereke, who we think could be like a Pro Bowler type of linebacker, right? But then you get George Odom, who you might be sitting there one day, you're watching your favorite team, and in number 30 gets an interception and makes a game big-time play. And you're going to be like, who the heck is that? You could be the smartest guy in the room, be like, oh, that's George Odom. I read about him in the Prospect Encyclopedia. But if you guys got a couple...
Before we go to them, since you're the writer of this Colts section, if you guys will look at your screen there, right up here, it says Indianapolis Colts, written by Cody Manning. So let's talk a little bit about Okereke here. And if you'll see on the screen, you've got him intellect 60, athleticism 60, tackling 65, run D 60, coverage 65, current grade 60, future grade 65. Why don't you give just a little insight into how you graded there so people can maybe touch a little bit more firmly on what those grades actually mean?
So basically, I think he's I think he's a well-rounded prospect, right? So he was able to, like I talked about earlier, with that pick 6, whatever you want to call it. Pick 2 is on a 2-point conversion. His intellect, he picks up the speed very quickly, especially as a rookie. That's why I gave him a 60. He's a sideline to sideline linebacker too, so he can fly all over the field and make plays. And then, like, the great thing about him is he breaks down when he tackles. So that's why I gave him a higher grade on the tackling. And I just think he's very fluid on the field, and he's great in coverage. So he's just a well-rounded prospect. So I didn't see any really major flaws in his game, and I just think he's got a great ceiling to his potential, and that's why I think he can be a potential Pro Bowler in this league.
Jack, let me come to you now. We'll stick on the Jags just for a second. Any player that you think you'd like to touch upon, maybe?
Jags or Colts?
The Colts.
All right. Well, there's a few guys I could throw out there. If he gave me the low hanging fruit, so I could talk about one of my favorite players in the draft, or one of our favorite players in the draft. It's always nice when me and Roy have our guys, and me and Cody have our guys, and they've got their guys. And then we go at it. But Jonathan Taylor, enough said. Jonathan Taylor is the number 2 on the list. He is by far one of the best running backs to come out of the draft in quite some time. This dude is a beast. He is going to be a home run hitter threat. He can run in between the tackles. He has some of the best contact balance out of anybody I've seen in quite some time. He reminds me a lot of Kareem Hunt, the way he runs, except he has another gear. He is a track, a sprinter. He is a monster among men when it comes to being able to go in between the tackles and stay up when he gets hit in the mouth. I cannot wait to see, and I think he will quickly surpass Marlon Mack, who, again, was one of my favorite running backs at that year, but he will quickly surpass Marlon Mack and become the number 1 option, and somebody that everybody should be targeting come fantasy season, which is now. Fantasy season's now.
Now, right? Meow.
That's why you want this book.
You want this book, so and then for next year, when it comes to Dynasty leagues, you're going to have that much more knowledge you're going to know. So you're going to be on top of it.
A name for you on this list, my friend?
Okay, so my guy for the Colts, there's Kahari Willis, the safety from Michigan State. He played a lot of meaningful snaps last year for the Colts. He's number 4 on Cody's list. He's an absolute baller, very underrated coming out of Michigan State, very assignment sound. He really gets the defense in line. He doesn't make a lot of wow plays, but he just reminds me a lot of a player that was really underrated, Ryan Clark. He doesn't get a lot of fanfare, but he was just solid across the board, played a lot of quality snaps, a lot of quality years, lets a lot of other players make a lot of high-quality plays and had the range, like Cody was saying with Okereke and Leonard. Willis keeping things straight in the back half is really letting them kind of just get out there, be free, flow to the ball, and eat. That really has a lot to be said when you have assignment sound type football players that can really have people lined up in the right positions and let them do their job. So Kahari Willis, you definitely want to be reading his report.
Let's then pivot down to the Jacksonville Jaguars here. And I'm going to withhold the rest of the PDF. We showed you just a little bit there, just to whetten the appetite for what you can see in the book. But let's talk a little bit about those Jacksonville Jaguars, written by David, I think, right?
Yep, David Connors.
David not with us today. So, Jack, I'll have you fill in here. Give me a name on that Jags list that you're just sold on, brother.
Oh, there's so many guys on this Jags list. Like the Jags over this last draft class, they hit a complete home run. And then the year before, they did damn near the same thing. So Josh Allen's number 1 at the top of the list. You can go from Josh Allen, Henderson, Caleb on Chason, Laviscus Chenault. I'm going to go all the way down to number 7 and Ben Barch. Yeah. So one of our favorite players in the draft again this is one of me and Roy's guys. Ben Barch is somebody who is going to find a way onto the field no matter what. I know there's talks about, they kind of already had their starters set. Ben Barch went a little bit later than he should have this year. He's somebody who's going to find his way onto the field, and once he gets a hold of a starting roster spot, he is not going to give it up. One of the best tackles, not just guards, not just offensive linemen. He's one of the best tackles. He can play center, he can play guard, he can play anywhere they need him to. He is that good. And coming from a small school, seeing him, he was arguably the most refined offensive tackle at the Senior Bowl when we got to see him live. I'm very excited to see what he can do. And this offense is tailor-made for what he does best, and that's play smash mouth football.
Ben Barch, the big ugly from St. Juan's, is Jack's pick. What about you, Cody? Somebody on this Jags roster in this All-22?
I'm going to make a kind of a combo here. And first of all, I don't think it was brought up, but it's just so people understand, the people on this list not only are from the last 3 draft classes, but they have to have 12 or less starts. So number 1 on David's list for the Jaguars is Josh Allen. I was so surprised. I didn't know he started less than 12 games. I was like, wait a minute, Josh Allen is on our list? But I forgot they had Campbell and Ngakwe, so it made sense when I thought about it.
If I'm
But
not
no,
mistaken, I
also-
think he's the highest graded player that we'll talk about tonight. I think of all the 4 teams, he's the highest graded player at a 60 current, 75 future grade.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and just to wrap it up really quick, another guy I liked in this past draft class, the edge class, Kalavon Chason. If both those guys can hit their ceilings, man, they're going to wreak havoc like Robert Mathis and Dwight Freeney did back in the day for the Colts. So
We're
I
going to
can't wait
have to
see how
pick
those-
up the pace a little bit here. Give me a name, Roy, real quick, and then we'll move into the Texans.
Yeah, my guy is Laviska Shenault. He's going to be utilized all over the field. He's going to be a fun player with Gardner Minshew. If you haven't watched Laviska yet, he's already been putting on a show. Been really flashing at only receiver here. He's going to be a run after the catch expert. Maybe a Deebo Samuel type impact on that offense.
Yeah, future grade of 60, so David was in love as well. Let's move on then to the Houston Texans, which you wrote, right, Roy?
Yes, sir.
So
it
let's
was
start
me.
with you. Who you want to talk about on this Texans roster?
So for me, I have one guy I really want to hit on. That's Charles Omenihu. He went in the 5th round last year. This guy is just a freak athlete. He's 6'5", 275, 280. He got a wingspan, I believe, of almost 36 inches, arms apiece. Just ridiculous length. Get those big arms up into the throwing lanes, a la J.J. Watt, who he's learning from. Might be the future replacement of J.J. Watt with all the injury he had. Really was able to push the pocket last year. Didn't get a lot of sacks, but got a lot of pressures. Equally efficient on run defense. Needs to add a little bit more bulk, maybe in the lower half. But really high upside player there that was really undersold in the draft. He's number 3 on my list. I really love his upside. Think he has a bright future ahead of him for the Houston Texans.
Again, present grade 55, future grade 60, grading out pretty well. Cody, Texans, in your division, you see a lot of them, man.
I'm going to be very quick because I just realized this is why people should buy the book, because you can get into too much information and just start talking all day.
Right, we filled up 15 minutes already almost.
Yeah, very quick. So I'll just say one name, Kahale Waring. Bill O'Brien was talking him up lately. The tight end room is very lacking in Houston. So if you're a fantasy football player, watch for that name to maybe potentially come up as a streamer.
Number 9 overall in the 22 for the Texans. Jack, who's the guy on the list for you?
The guy that I'm most intrigued in seeing how, if he can make the jump, is Titus Howard. So I'm not going to say that he's going to, but I think he, out of any of these guys, is going to be the most pivotal. The Texans are definitely going to rely on him the most. If he can fill that right tackle spot with Laramie Tunsil on the left-hand side, they actually might have an offensive line to surround him. But Howard in his 8 starts last year took quite a bit of bumps and bruises.
Yeah, absolutely. Number 2 overall on the list here. Let's pivot then. We've got about 3 minutes to cover the Tennessee Titans. If we go a little longer, I'm sorry, guys, but so much information here for you. Let me start here with you, Jack. Tennessee Titans, give me a name on this list.
Oh, for the Titans right now?
Yes, sir.
Sorry, let me see. I was a little off right now.
You want me to go, Jack?
It's okay.
Go for it.
We
Go
can start,
for it.
Roy.
I lost
Page
my, I lost
100.
my spot.
Because
Okay.
it's so handy
I know
to
what
have
I'm
the
saying,
PDF.
but-
It's on page 100 to start. Go ahead, Roy.
So one of my favorite players and one of my favorite people to watch on tape last year, the Rainbows from the Hawaii guys, Cole McDonald. The flowing dreadlocks are gone. The throwing motion is getting tightened up down there in Tennessee's camp. This guy looks like a different throwing motion already just in 2 days worth of camp. He has a quicker release, but he was throwing bombs at Hawaii. He has a lot of physical upside. I'm very intrigued with an NFL caliber quarterback coach mining out that type of just bare physical assets, what could be in the upside. So Cole McDonald from Hawaii, if you see the tape and you compare it already from his days at Hawaii to the first couple practices, his throwing motion and release has been quickened up and a lot different. So Cole McDonald.
Jack, you find your name, brother?
Oh, well, there's too many to list in terms of the Titans. But yeah, I did. I messed up my PDF. If I got one name to talk about out of this illustrious list, it's got to be Jeffrey Simmons, who to me was if he was healthy coming out of the draft, you could have talked about him going before Quinnen Williams last year. Once he got onto the field, was a complete game wrecker and nightmare. If you watch some of that playoff film, he was making plays left and right and basically living in people's backfields. Super excited to see what Jeffrey Simmons does this year. But then you got guys like I'll let Cody get into it. But A.J. Brown, Christian Fulton, Isaiah Wilson, who is a monster of a man. I don't know if you've seen him compared to his running mate on Bustin' with the Boys the other day. They look like they played two completely different positions. That's how
Look
big
like
that
Roy
boy is.
standing next to Jack.
Exactly.
Cody,
and that's
real
Taylor
quick.
Lewan we're talking about.
Right. Cody, you got about 40 seconds, my man.
As you know, A.J. Brown's like Josh Allen. I can't believe he didn't start more than 12 games for me. Christian Fulton was my CB2. I was higher on him than probably most people. Please go check out our top 5 cornerback video from back in April on this YouTube channel if you want to hear my more thoughts on him. But my guy, Darrington Evans, I like this little scat back. He's got some quickness in open space from Appalachian State. Look for him to be the spell guy to Derrick Henry this year.
Yeah, graded out at a 55 future grade, 45 present, number 5 in the book for the Titans. I mean, this Titans team has got some talent around it. So what we're going to do now, we're going to go ahead and I'm going to hit you with a quick commercial so that we can get our bearings about us before we go into the NFC South for the fourth quarter. We will be right back.
Sex, drugs, and murder. Welcome to the locker room of the 2008 Florida Gators.
Hey, let's go! Get in here! Get in here right now! Get in here! Hey, we got 30 minutes for the rest of our lives! 30 minutes for the rest of our lives! That's our battle in the first half. It ain't happening. We get the ball. I promise you one thing. We're going to hit somebody and we're taking down the field for a touchdown. I guarantee you that. Guarantee. Look at me. Look at me. Let's go. We got 30 minutes. Let's go. For the rest of our lives.
And welcome back in just in time for the fourth quarter to start, where we're going to be talking about the NFC South. I bet you couldn't guess since we talked about the AFC South, but we're going to keep it going with the NFC South, and we'll start with the Tampa Bay Gronkaneers. I've given up trying to keep up with the Hollywood name of what this team is, but let's just start with Jack, because he's been really going to town on his Bucs happiness lately. So let's let him start. Jack, who you got here on this list?
Tampa Bay, Tampa 2. It don't matter. Tampa Bay Buccaneers are back, baby. That's all I'm going to say. In terms of some of my favorite players on this list, I know somebody that was talked about today actually was in the news. Scotty Miller, this tiny little wide receiver that nobody knows, has 4.3 speed and apparently is catching all the deep balls from Tom Brady today. He's somebody I am very excited. We do have a stacked wide receiving core. Justin Watson's another one who's slowly been creeping up. I mean, he was getting Jordy Nelson comparisons coming out of college, and I think he's somewhat been a poor man's Jordy Nelson. Obviously, he's slowly kind of worked himself up the depth chart. But those two wide receivers intrigue me big time. But I didn't actually write this section, so we can turn it on over to Cody. And he can talk about this, seeing how he's the Bucs beat writer.
Everybody knows that you're the super fan. You're the pewter super fan, so I had to let you go first. But you're right. Cody did write about him, our in-house Tampa Bay Buccaneers beat writer. Cody, give me the name, because, again, these are guys that you followed. You live in the area. You know better than we do what's going on in Tampa. So who do you like?
Yeah, and I felt like I was under pressure, too. I wanted to make sure I could the Bucs for Jack, but man, if I'm gonna talk about one guy, it's Antoine Winfield Jr. He's number 4 on my list. He was just a guy that I was very high on in the draft process. He could be a playmaker, a ball hawk, and you're hearing good reports coming out of camp from him. He's expected to be a starting safety heading into the year, so he's a guy I cannot wait to see play. And if I could just say one name I'm really intrigued by is John Franklin III. If anybody remembers, he was the last chance U quarterback. He went down to FAU. He came in, played as a cornerback came in in the NFL as a cornerback, spent some time with the Chicago Bears. And then the last part of the year, he played wide receiver. He played a little bit Wildcat for the Bucs. So I'm very interested to see if BA uses him at all this year. I'm just very interested in seeing the end result of his career.
And we know Bruce Arians loves his versatile chess pieces, a la Antoine Randall won him a Super Bowl. So he knows what to do with them.
Anytime we can spin this into Steelers, oh man. Of course, Roy, with the Steelers nice. Nugget. Yeah. Nice. Roy, I know it's not the Steelers, but if you have time and would like to talk about the Buccaneers, use your guy on the list.
As long as they're not in creamsicle orange, I will talk about my guy, one of the guys I pounded the table for, who also has 3 names, Sean Murphy Bunting, the big physical athletic specimen out at cornerback. We know Jamal Dean is also on this list, who is also a freak outside. Outperformed his draft slot, but Sean Murphy Bunting, I think the sky is really the limit. Cody, that's his number 1 player. He gets really in-depth, really quality in-depth work there. You want to be reading his scouting report, and I think this year you're going to really see that next year jump. He might be a press corner in the likes of the Seattle type. In another year or so from now, you're hearing that name kind of bandied about. Sean Murphy Bunting and Jamal Dean, maybe a Brandon Browner, Richard Sherman type combo.
Best moment of my life was when I sniped him from Jack in that Madden fantasy draft. Loved it. Let's move down to the Atlanta Falcons.
Hey, who won that game though?
Who won what? That? We ain't got time. Who won that? We got a show to do. I'm the producer.
Don't be bringing up Madden.
I can mute whom I wish. The Atlanta Falcons. All you guys around in Madden. Let's move around to the Atlanta Falcons here, and Cody, I'll come to you. Again, this is one of those teams. They always seem to let me down when I like them and overplay when I don't. So I don't even want to talk about them. But your turn.
My guy on this is what Ryan Lippert did the Falcons on his list.
So. Ryan Lippert.
So for me, it's number 2, AJ Terrell. AJ Terrell was my cornerback 5 from this past draft process, and he's a guy that actually jumped out on the tape to me during his junior year when I was scouting Clemson. So he's a guy I kind of been following for a while. He ended up going actually quite higher than I thought. I thought he was worth a background first-round pick, but then he ended up going 16, I want to say, if my memory serves me right. So. And he comes to a situation where they need a true number 1 corner. So I'm interested to see how he plays his rookie year. And he made a highlight interception the other day in practice, too. That was nice of him. So that's my guy.
What about you, Roy? Who's the Falcon you're in love with?
For me, it's number 4, and I think it's the same one, Jack. It's one of our guys. Marlon Davidson, a unique 300-pound defensive lineman who was just blowing people up. I mean, everybody's talking about Derek Brown, but this guy's standing up at 300 pounds as a 3-4 outside linebacker, still getting pressure and not looking out of place. He got very light feet for a big man. He looked like he could dance the salsa quite easily, and I'd like to see this guy get some pressure here in a front that knows how to utilize unique, talented defensive linemen with Dan Quinn.
You know I love it whenever a 300-pluser gets some love on any Blitzalytics programming. So as a fat boy, that makes me happy at the heart. And Jack, he took your guy. I could see it on your face when the name rolled out. You got a backup?
Yeah, no, he took my. I was even gonna say it looks like one tech plays like 7. Yeah, so obviously that's who I was ready for. My biggest one, again, this is somebody who I'm focused on more than anybody, is Chris Lindstrom. Between him and Caleb McGarry, they obviously both of them were injured last year, didn't get to see full action. But at times, I mean, they aren't the biggest guys. They aren't wide bodies. Chris Lindstrom, they both play. I mean, these guys are both guys that are said to be moving and blocking in motion and down the line in the zone scheme. They got bullied quite a bit. They got bullied from big guys, from big, powerful guys who against the bull rush, they were very susceptible. So I'm interested to see what Chris Lindstrom does. He definitely has a high ceiling in that scheme specifically, but can he hold himself against some of the bigger interior defensive linemen that's what I'm going to be intrigued to see because he only got 5. He only seen action in 5 games last year.
Yeah, I got to keep Matty Ice off his ace for the Falcons to be successful. So obviously a big cog in that. Let's move on down to the Carolina Panthers. New head coach Matt Rule in tow, new quarterback in tow with Teddy B. But of all these young guys, Roy, I'm going to start with you. Who's the guy that just jumps off the page?
I'm going to let the obvious one, I think, for Jack to take because I think I introduced him here, so I'm going to let him go at number 6. My other guy is XFL great Kenny Robinson, number 8. He's a playmaker from when he was back in West Virginia. He was a playmaker with Rob St. Louis Battlehawks.
Yes, sir.
He might be back very soon. This guy was the first ever XFL draft pick. He can equally as well tackle you in space as he can, cover over the top. Just a unique talent. Love him. He's really young, 21 years old. I really love the way Matt Rule was building this defense with Derek Brown early in the draft. You got Brian Burns from last year's, and now you got some really, really athletic and smart and ball-hawking defensive backs in the back end. I don't think it's going to be very long until we see Carolina being contenders.
Jack, I'll come to you, man. Who's your guy on this Panthers roster?
One person that I'm very intrigued by that they got, at a good spot in the draft this year was Yadier Gross-Matos. So, I could have gone with a couple other guys. You could talk Derek Brown. You could talk, it's crazy that Brian Burns had such a good year. He only had 5 total starts last season. This is one of the best young defensive lines in the game, and they're not paying any of them big-time money. I mean, Derek Brown gets bit off a nice little chunk being a top 10 pick, but it's definitely not big deal money. So where a lot of these other teams are spending hundreds of millions of dollars, these guys have basically everybody on rookie deals. Yadier Gross-Matos is one of those guys. He's got the prototypical frame, length, size, strength. His get-offs can sometimes be a little slow, but I think if he hits his ceiling this year, this is going to be an extremely scary defensive line.
Yeah, I got a lot of good young talent here. Cody, who's your guy?
I'm gonna go with I like all Brian Burns. Yeah, I'm still it's another name. I'm like, how did he not start more game? Get banged up though at one point last year, if my memory serves me right. I'm gonna go with Jeremy Chin since he was left out there.
Thank you.
He's a super talented, versatile safety that can play inside the box. The dude is stacked. I just remember being in Mobile for the Senior Bowl and us standing right next to him, and I'm just like, whew. I'm 32 years old, and that man can kick my ass. He will come up and hit somebody. He can be a playmaker. I'm very excited for his career. And then if I got other time, watch out for Ian Thomas this year in fantasy football. He's a super athletic tight end that can be a receiving tight end in this league. So especially with the low yards per attempt, Teddy Bridgewater, maybe he can take advantage of that. So watch out for him.
Absolutely. Scrolling through here, just saw the ad for Key City, so give a shout out here to Key City Brewing, our main sponsor here on the channel, locally sourced and crafted with love. That's what it says. So let's move on. We had a little more time to talk about Carolina, I guess, because if I'm being honest, this Saints, thin, my friend. My friend. Super thin. Jack, you were the writer here, so we'll key off with you, but this is a top-heavy squad, so slim pickings, man. At least you get to go first.
Yeah, very slim pickings. I did write this. It was rough. It was the hardest one to write because if you look through the list, it gets real thin after about 5 or 6. That's not to say that the New Orleans Saints don't have one of the best rosters in the NFL. They are definitely a top 5 most talented team in the NFL, but they are very top-heavy. So once you get past 4, 5, 6, I mean, even it gets thin. Like you're talking about Carl Granderson at 7 and JT Gray. Most of these guys are, special teamers really at best when other teams are loaded. When you look at the Niners roster or you look at, some of these other guys, there's starters on that list still when you're getting into the teens. It's just not here. Probably my favorite player out of this whole group, though. We could talk about Adam Trautman being one of our favorites. We can talk about Zach Bond. Not really sure where they're going to use him. One of my favorites on this list is the little bowling ball Malcolm Roach, who is a slightly undersized defensive tackle out of Texas. I happen to be a Longhorns fan. And then the other one was Tommy Stevens. Tommy Stevens is interesting because he is basically Taysom Hill. So why would they go and come back into the draft to make sure that they can sign Taysom Hill and make sure that he doesn't go to the New England, which was apparently the rumors or what was intended to happen if he went undrafted. So they now have a quarterback who can do the exact same thing as Taysom Hill. How is that going to play out? Which one's going to end up being the better of the two? Do they keep a 2-quarterback system with that next year? It just adds a lot of drama. But Stevenson out of Mississippi State, he is a do-it-all. He can run, he can catch, he can pass, he can block, he can play special teams. There's nothing he can't do.
Cody, I'll be coming to you again. Super thin here. I looked it up. So the Carolina Panthers, they start their future grades of 50s in the 17s. The Saints start them at 7. That's how different the roster is as far as youthful talent. So, Cody, it's going to be a little harder here. We'll leave the real hard one to Roy. But who do you like for the Saints?
I'm going to go with the guy I think I was my first hit for us when we really started paying attention to our draft, our scouting, is Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. A versatile D-back that I was very high on. I still can't believe he fell to the 4th round in that draft class. He produced last year, and he's going to be a key piece to that secondary this year. So he's the number 1 prospect on this on Jack's list, which I think I totally agree with. So he's my name for the Saints.
Didn't he change his name?
Yeah, I think it's like
CD Deuce. Yeah, dude, that's what it is. CD Deuce in the building. Because that's how the Saints roll. Again, I like CD Deuce. That's going to be hard to get used to after. But I like what they got. But again, after 4 or 5, you're talking drop off, Royce. So where do you go after these two took the best options?
Okay. See, I actually know a lot of these players from 12 down. I guess I'm just weird like that. And
yeah, you're a freak.
Like a nerd.
We've discussed it multiple times.
But I do want to say, as Jack is saying about his George Kittle comment, I called Tommy Stevens as the next Taysom Hill during the draft process. So now they haven't taken snaps at tight end. And this dude, he's legit the next Taysom Hill, maybe even a little better. But that's not the guy I want to talk about. The guy I want to key in on with a lot of uncertainty with the prior injury here at guard, Andrews Pete, Calvin Throckmorton at 19. I know they have him listed as a tackle, but he made 52 starts while he was at Oregon. He's very solid, very good technique. He might need to add some bulk, but that type of experience year 1 on a veteran offense, he's not going to get you killed. He might be able to play solid snaps and get you through until some of the other guys are there. During his time at Oregon, he started 41 games at right tackle, 5 at left, 3 at right guard, 3 at center. So he can play up and down that line of scrimmage. For there, he's a really versatile piece, and he might just get on that 53-man roster because of that injury. So Calvin Throckmorton, plus the dude, just his name sounds like he should be swinging, Thor's hammer.
He does. That'll do it for the 4th quarter. If you guys want to get more information on either of those AFC South or NFC South teams, be sure to, again, log on to blitzalytics.com/shop. Is that right, Jack?
Yes.
/shop to get your copy, either in physical form, PDF, or individual team. So, again, check those out. Let's go ahead then and get started right into overtime here. Today in overtime, we're going to be discussing some quarterback competitions. We've got a few of them here for you. You got a battle down in Miami between Fitzmagic and Tua. Washington, you've got Haskins, you've got Alex Smith returning. The Chargers, you've got Tyrod Taylor, you've got Justin Herbert. New England, you've got Cam, and I don't know why it's on the list. Chicago has no quarterbacks to pick from. The Vegas one we threw on there just to have some fun. Marcus Mariota, Derek Carr. And then we're going to discuss New Orleans and their backup situation. So let's go ahead and start there. Jack, let's start with the Patriots. And do you legitimately think this still could be Stidham's job?
I legitimately think that there is enough reason for concern that Cam Newton is not going to be Cam Newton. If Cam Newton is Cam Newton, for sure, 100%. But also, you have to remember we're talking about Tom Brady having to learn a new playbook. Think of what Cam Newton's having to go through right now and learning the entire playbook. I mean, the Patriots, we've said this for years, the Patriots don't have a play. They have all the plays. So they're not going to build some simplistic little mundane offense centered around him just specifically. They might be able to do that for a couple games, but they're going to expect Cam Newton to know all the plays and all the lingo. And this might not be enough time. Let's not forget, there is a reason why that up until just a few weeks ago, Cam Newton was not on their roster. It's because they believe and they think that high of their young quarterback that they didn't think that they necessarily needed him. They didn't go out and grab Cam Newton. They didn't go and grab any of these other free agent quarterbacks that were on the market. They did it after the fact. So if Cam Newton would have got swooped up, they would have been fine rolling with who they had.
Yeah, okay, so I'll give you that. They do have a really long, deep playbook. I wonder what's longer, the Patriots playbook or the 2020 Prospect Encyclopedia. I'm going to bring it up as often as possible. Cody, real quick, in your opinion, any shot this isn't Cam's job?
No shot at all.
No shot at all. Roy, any shot this isn't Cam's job?
Can we do like a negative percentage? Because I don't think Matt Castle version 2 is going to beat him out.
See, that's what I think. I think Stidham is Matt Castle. Like, that's perfect. Like, exact. Like, he'll get it done in New England and only New England. So, I mean, I don't know. I could see it. I get what Jack's saying, though. You got the young guy in tow, and nobody's really sure what Cam is. So there's a chance. Let's move to one that's. You may worry who's going to start, but we all kind of know who the guy is. It's Miami, Ryan Fitzpatrick, Tua Tagovailoa. How many? I guess we'll say over under on this one because this isn't an if but a when. How many games do you think? And Cody, I'll start with you before we see Tua as the starting quarterback in Miami.
6, I guess, games. Because I mean, if you read the reports, Tua's just kind of doing handoffs and doing very light quarterback work. It sounds like
not today. He was slinging it down the seam today.
Well, I mean, I just don't see with that line why you want to rush a quarterback coming off a hip surgery when you know you're really about at least at best a year away from competing for the playoffs. So I know the coach Brian Flores is a competitor, so I do expect him to start whoever's the best quarterback. So if Tua is the best quarterback, I would not be surprised if he's out there week 1. But from a GM mind, I would say hold that kid on the sideline for a while.
Roy, when does Tua get the first crack here?
Opening day. He'll be their opening day starter.
Oh, boy, just throwing him to the wolves. Let him get it, right? That's Roy's philosophy. Throw him in, see if he can swim. Jack, how many games before Tua is behind center?
If you look at the schedule, it lines up perfectly that week 7 against the Chargers, maybe you have rookie versus rookie lined up right there. But in terms of who has the best opportunity to beat the New England Patriots week 1 and then the Bills week 2, I'm definitely going Fitzmagic. I think Fitzmagic is going to start. Not saying that he's better quarterback than Tua. Just think the veteran presence there. They're going to start with that, and then you don't want to go Tua not play right, and then pull Tua. You'd rather have Fitzmagic go in, take the brunt of this schedule because it goes Patriots, it goes Bills, it goes Jaguars, which is their only winnable game, and then it goes back to Seahawks, Niners, Broncos. Like, that's not a realistic approach.
Defense. But yeah, so I like Cody's game 6. I get why Roy says 1, but I think if I'm laying money on it, I think you got 6 weeks, up to 6 weeks of Fitzmagic. Let's just keep the vet versus rookie tone rolling here and go into Los Angeles with the Chargers. And Cody, I'll start with you. Same question, basically. When do we see Herbert over Tyrod Taylor?
I think you're going to see it week 1. I really do. At first, I was on the Tyrod Taylor is going to be the starter. He's a veteran presence, but I don't know if you guys are hearing everybody talk, the veterans, the players, the coaches. They are talking so highly of Justin Herbert right now, how he can reach every blade of the grass, his body, his arm. So I think there's a lot of momentum right now for him being the week 1 starter.
Roy?
See, I'm the exact opposite. I know it's been been a lot of talk of Herbert being impressive, but Tyrod Taylor, the last time he had essentially the keys to an offense, he led him to the playoffs in Buffalo. Tyrod Taylor in this offense with the weapons and a renewed sense on the offensive line, at least on the interior, and a Brian Bulaga and that defense, you can make a statement in the AFC West and make a push for a playoff system if Tyrod can play the same type of ball.
Hey, Cody, can you bring up their schedule for me? Jack,
I got it.
You got it up already? Okay, hit me with their schedule.
So week 1, winnable game against the Bengals. After that, Chiefs, Panthers, Bucks, Saints. And then it lightens up. They go Jets, they go Dolphins, they go Jags, Raiders, Broncos. So there's a tough first 5 weeks. I mean, depending on what the Bengals are, depending on what the Chargers are, I definitely see Tyrod Taylor getting the start, the initial nod. I know it's amazing, this howitzer for a cannon for an arm, but it's going to be a completely different story when he's under duress. It's going to be a completely different story when it comes to decision making, when it comes to actually having 11 guys on the opposite side of the field of him. That's what's going to be the big difference. We know he can throw the ball. Like, that's never been in question.
I could see it a number of different ways. I could see it from all your guys' point of view. I could also see it like they just rode Tyrod until he gets the first L, and then it's Justin's job. So, really one of those things, man. But all the reports.
It's going to be 11 man across them, but just keep in mind, the guys are saying this is like Chris Harris Jr., guys I've seen quarterbacks play. So, that's where I got that from.
Yeah. I mean, it was all over Hard Knocks.
Let's jump into... Let's go to Washington, and again, because we've already kind of touched on Alex Smith. What do we do here? I don't want to come to Jack first. I'll let it marinate with you, Jack. But Roy, what do we do here? You got the young guy in tow. You got the veteran coming back who feels like he's got the opportunity to win more games, but doesn't matter with Washington.
I actually think Washington, they're going to be one of the most underrated. I think if Alex Smith is able to come back, if he's able to be healthy, that defense alone will be able to keep you in games. I mean, Chase Young, Jonathan Allen, a lot of that front seven, and they have a lot of underrated parts. You know, our boy Gandy Golden, who's going to be a young kid, it's going to have to get a lot of snaps because of the injury to Kelvin Harmon. So, the Gandy man can. And the guy that you want to be looking out for in fantasy football, Steven Sims Jr., if nobody is drafting this kid and you're in the last 2 or 3 rounds, make sure you get him. He's Tyreek Hill light with the type of impact he can have on that offense, especially if Haskins is under center. Them two have really hit it off in the last few games last year. And so for Haskins, that's going to be the key. I think initially he'll get the start. But if this team starts wavering, I wouldn't be surprised if practice reps start swaying towards Alex Smith. I really like Alex Smith, and I think if he was healthy to begin with, he should be the starter. But this is also a young team. You got to make a decision. Are you going to be riding Haskins and figure it out for next year's draft class? Or are you going to go with Alex Smith and try to make the playoffs?
Cody, where do you go, man? Who's the guy?
I don't know if I go with the guy, but I think it's going to be Dwayne Haskins. I think Alex is just going to be a veteran backup, and then if Dwayne completely falls on his face, which is completely plausible, that's when we'll see Alex Smith. So I totally expect Dwayne Haskins to be week 1 starter.
Jack, I'm going to ask you a different question. You thought you were preparing for a whole other thing. It's not how it's going to go. What are the chances that we see Washington start Alex Smith just to inflate trade value because we haven't seen him play?
I don't think there'll be much. I mean, we're talking about Riverboat Ron here. Like, he's not going to make that. That's a weak-minded decision to bring out a guy just for trade bait. If Alex Smith if Dwayne Haskins comes out and lights it up and looks amazing, during training camp, and then comes in week 1 and wins a game, then definitely it could be thought about Alex Smith. Say Drew Lock doesn't play well, then maybe. But there isn't a whole lot of quarterback spots open. It would require an injury before you could even think about trading for Alex Smith. And so you'd have to talk about a serious quarterback going down. Maybe, I hate to say it, but if a Tom Brady or something was to go down, they're trying to, have any shot at rejuvenating a team, on short notice, because, Blaine Gabbert ain't going to be it. a team that's all in with their number one quarterback, and that number one quarterback goes down, I could see that. Maybe at Jacksonville,
if Patrick Mahomes,
isn't,
I'm telling you, if Patrick Mahomes, if there's anything with Patrick Mahomes, dude, they'll go get Alex. They'll go bring him back.
Bring him right back.
Bring him right back. Andy loved him. He's a good guy. He's a great guy to have in the locker room and give the job right back to Pat. So
it would depend on how they work out the trade, but his cap hit right now is 21.4 million this year, and then he's got 2 years left on his deal. 24.4 next year, 26.4 the following year. He's a dead cap hit of next year of 10.8, and the following year of 5.4. So
like
that's
I said
something
earlier, kids, be quarterbacks. That is where the money is.
Salary cap's a myth.
Yeah, it totally is. It totally is.
None of those numbers that Cody gave are relevant. They won't. They won't matter. If he gets traded, they'll rework
Wave a magic wand, it'll be gone.
Yep.
Let's
like the Eagles do.
Jump into the Chicago Bears, where it's my opinion they don't have any quarterbacks. So, whose job is it? Is it Trubisky or is it Foles here? Cody, I'll start with you.
I'm with you.
Well, is one's hot garbage and one is younger hot garbage, so it doesn't matter.
I go back to Jack's argument about Cam not picking up the offense. That little story, you could see maybe a Nick Foles maybe needing more time, but to be fair, he is a veteran, so maybe he can pick up things quickly. I want to say Nick Foles is the week 1 starter. So I don't know if I'm buying into Cordero Patterson saying number 10 is a different animal this year.
Yeah, isn't the Matt Nagy offense very similar to the Doug Peterson offense? Isn't it from technically the same offensive coaching tree?
I went back on it because Nick Foles spent time in Kansas City with Andy Reid, and that's where Matt Nagy too. So it might be a quicker transition than the other ones that were previously mentioned.
Jack, will go to you here. I'll come to you, Rob.
In terms of who's going to be starting for Chicago?
Yeah, who's the man in Chi-Town?
Oh, man. I think it's probably going to be Mitchell Trubisky. They were dumb enough to draft him, so they'll be dumb enough to roll him out there and figure out exactly what they got. This is basically what Jameis was last year. They need to figure it out. If Trubisky can turn it around and be a quarterback or not, this is the time to figure it out. So week 1, he's starting. Nick Foles will take it within a handful of weeks. I'm not sure exactly when, but sooner or later, Foles will be the quarterback.
Jack hit me with my feelings right there, Roy. So I'll let you finish it up on the Bears, and then we'll move into the last two.
Yeah, he hit it right on the head. It's going to be a Marcus Mariota type effect. He's going to go from 3 or 4 games. They're going to realize this guy ain't it, and they're going to move on to the veteran. And he's going to be able to pick up the offense quite quickly because of playing in a similar type offense with the Eagles and Chiefs back end when he thought he was going to retire. Easy transition to Foles in maybe week 4.
All right, last minute here. We're going to do 2 super fun ones, just quick answers. Not really sure these are battles, but we'll get some answers here. Las Vegas Raiders, Derek Carr, Marcus Mariota. Who you got, Roy? Make it quick. We got 45 seconds here to finish up.
Week 1, Carr. Week 6, Mariota.
Cody.
Ew.
I'm going with what Roy just said.
Ooh, Jack, what do you do here?
All 16, Derek Carr. One's accurate. One's one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the league, and one's wildly inaccurate. One's mobile. One's not so mobile. It doesn't matter. Derek Carr is the perfect quarterback for that offense. Marcus Mariota, yes, he can bring a spark with what he does different, but he's got to fix the accuracy issues, and those haven't been fixed in how long? It's not going to happen.
I love to watch the world burn. It's Mariota by game 6.
The game here, I got this. The game after Mariota takes over on the next episode of Football Happy Hour, Jack has to slam a full beer. If he does start all 16 games, me and Roy will slam a beer at the end of the year.
There we go. I like to see it. And technically we're out of time, but I'm going to finish this up because I'm the host. I'll do what the hell I want here. We'll go into overtime. New Orleans. If Drew Brees goes down, who finishes with more starts? Is it going to be Taysom Hill or Jameis Winston? I'll start with you, Jack.
Jameis.
Cody.
Jameis.
Roy.
The Mormon Missile, Taysom Hill.
Oh! I'm going Jameis. Come on, man. It's Jameis. Taysom Hill's not.
Hey, That is Sean Payton's Brett Favre. You let him be.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, that's going to wrap it up for the football happy hour here presented by Blitzalytics. I'm going to go around the horn, let everybody say their goodbyes and tell you where they can be followed. I'm also going to ask that if you're watching us to give us a like, give us a share. If you're on YouTube, hit that subscribe and that little bell icon notification. You'll be notified every time we drop a video or go live. Jack, I will come to you, sir.
At me, at Jack Bourgeois, JACKBOOSHWA. Big shout out to our sponsors, Key City Brewing. At me.
Cody.
Follow me at Cody Talks NFL. Thanks for tuning in tonight, guys. I'll see you next Tuesday. And be on the lookout for that link so you can buy the Prospect Encyclopedia tomorrow.
Roy, 'tis be your turn, my friend.
What my man Cody just said. Go buy a book, people. If not, go high tech and get a PDF. If not, buy a team for each one of your family members. We love you. At Preacher Boy Roy, if you want to hit me up with anything. If not, make sure you get the guy that's the host here some work too. He can make you some sick graphics and type pictures. Just reach out to Rob.
That's how
Hey,
I roll.
and as always, stay humble, be a blessing.
All right, I'm going to give a little plug here to our store. Do you wear clothes? Shirts specifically. Do you like those shirts to have cool pictures on them? Well, of course you do. Well, sure, as Roy would say.
For sure.
You're a person of taste. You got standards that can't be met by purchasing generic big box stores crappy gear. Step your game up this season with sweet new shirts from Blitzalytics. Go get you one of them company logos on your choice of, I think, 5 different colors. You can get them today at buyjack.com/collection/Blitzalytics or view mine at buyjack.com/collections/Rob Graphics.
Yes.
Also want to give a shout out. My wife just started her business, so of Wonderland Events 417, man. Cheap party planning for you in the Midwest. If you need it digitally, she'll hit you up anywhere. So got to do that, right? Got to make the wife happy, guys. So you can follow me on Twitter at Rob Graphics. You have any beef with anything that's been said today, again, Cody's is at Cody Talks NFL. Feel free to bug him about it. I don't really care. So we will see you guys next week, Tuesday, 9/8 Central, for yet another episode of Football Happy Hour. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we look forward to talking to you guys next week.
Blitz out. Hit that like button. Blitz it.